Now there is a brand new Ford Ranger. Finally, I've been waiting a long time to see what they were going to do with especially the front fascia of this new Ford Ranger. They've teased a lot of images where you can see the LED strips in a backlit pictures and so on, but now we finally know how this will look like. Now I made a video on my second channel talking about my initial impressions of this design, but in this video I'm actually going to take the front end and take what I said in that video on my second channel and implement that into a new redesign here of the front end. So quickly about the spec and tech here. The powertrain isn't really anything new. It's still the 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder, which has 270 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. This right here is the global launch now. So this is not the US spec models that you see here in the videos. The thing is, you know how models are being launched. You know that if they have a global launch and then later in the US a separate launch, it's not going to be very different from what the global launch truck looks like. It might be some indicator differences in colors and so on, but that's pretty much it. This is what the US spec Ranger is gonna look like. So it has the same 2.3 liter engine and it's paired with the same 10-speed automatic transmission, but the body and styling is of course all new, as you can see right here. You do have a 6-speed manual available in some markets. However, I doubt it will gonna come here to the US with a 6-speed manual. You're still gonna have the only option being the 10-speed automatic for the US market. However, if you think this drivetrain is boring and you already know what it is, it's a pretty safe bet by Ford to put this 2.3 liter here in the new Ranger as well. However, there will be a Ranger Raptor. There is already an existing Ranger Raptor. I have no idea why it's not being sold in the US, because I would definitely be in the market for one. I bought a Ram Rebel instead, but I wanted the Ranger Raptor to be available here in the US with the little wide body kit and the beefier wheels and tires. I think it looks fantastic. And the next Ford Ranger is actually scheduled now to become available in the US, hopefully by 2023. And it will not have the 4-cylinder 2.3 liter engine. Instead, it's going to have the twin turbo 2.7 liter V6 that they smacked into the new Bronco. Overall though, it gets a little bigger on both ends, so on the length and the width, 2 inches on both of those dimensions. And since it has similar powertrain details as previously, it will have a similar towing capacity as well at about 7,500 pounds. A recent good trend that I noticed recently is that a lot of trucks now, when they come out, they have a massively improved interior. For example, the Chevy Silverado, I think, is the absolute best example of this. Up until 2021 model year, the interior basically looked like it came from 1996, and with the new one, it looks a lot cleaner and so much better. It's actually now can actually compete with the other trucks in that segment. And same goes for this Ranger here. It's looked a little dated. Another good example of that was the new Toyota Tundra. Also has a massive improved interior with the new model, since the old one has been in production, I don't know, a decade or so. Same goes here for the Ranger. A huge improvement on the interior. You now have a 10.1-inch touchscreen as standard, but you can option for a 12-inch unit right in the center console. The interior now looks and feels like it belongs in this decade. The old one was a pretty old style and feel, both in the styling and in the materials used, and the new one here kind of reminds me a little bit of the F-150 interior, so that's not a bad thing. It will go into production next year, but that's for the global market. However, it will come to US as a 2023 model. We don't know exactly when. So what I want to do here, let's talk about this design. The front, I'm going to focus on the front here. There's really not a lot I want to do with the rear end, but the front looks a little weak to me, and I've talked about the reasons why in my video on the second channel called Bembly. If you want to go and check that one out first, I'm gonna reiterate here some of the details what I said here, because this is what we're gonna base the redesign on. What I think about this front end is that it has a lot of static elements in it. Graphically, the layout of the graphic elements here are very static. What do I mean by that? Well, if we divide the front, the top part here, and then we have the bottom part, we divide these into 2 different graphic elements, like we usually have on trucks, right? We have the bumper, the air out intakes in the bottom, and then we have the grille, headlight, headlights in the top. So this is section number 1, this is section number 2. You can see that they are almost the same height. So what this does, it creates a very boring and static looking front end that doesn't really have any direction of where the graphics wants to pull your eyes. So it doesn't have a direction going up and it doesn't have a direction going down because they're right 50-50 here in the height. So that creates zero movements when you look at it in the front end here. Another thing that I want to talk about is the second thing that we're going to change is what I call the rubber band in my notes, which I talked about in the other video as well. And that is this black piece right here. I have to say it does look a lot better if you have a black or a charcoal colored Ranger here, but when you have this orange gold color or whatever you want to call this, maybe it's called cyber orange or cyber yellow as well on the Ranger, I'm not sure, but when you have this big contrast here between the black and the yellow right here, it looks like this is a rubber band that someone has kind of tied from underneath and just slapped on top of the face to kind of hold up the bumper or something with this big rubber band so that the bumper doesn't fall off right here. That's the initial impression that I had of this design, and that's what I want to change. I want to integrate this a lot better. So I want to integrate this bumper or this line in the body, across the entire front end with body color here. Then we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with this piece. If we want to have an air intake here, that might look kind of weird. If we just have an opening here, that means that this headlight is just abruptly going to stop right here. Not sure how that's gonna work. Or we can maybe take this part and extend it all the way to this point right here, so we have more like a Maverick design here. It's probably going to look a lot more like the Maverick, and that's what I want. I want this to be in line with what the Maverick is, but at the same time look like the big brother of the Maverick. That's gonna be the key objective here. And also, if you look, another thing I want to change here is in addition to, so now we have the relationship between the front top graphic right here. We're gonna change that, and then we're gonna change this rubber band, make something with that. The third thing I want to change are these LEDs. So what I see right now on LEDs is becoming a lot more important for the brand to be identifiable at night, for example, when you have these bright LEDs. So I think this is too little of a identifier, this little dip here. So what I think I'm gonna do, make this larger, something like this. So this is all white, so we have a larger kind of section up there that sets this apart from every other truck. Maybe have this mirror down here as well. I'm gonna have to play around with that and see how that's gonna turn out. So I want to show you the previous Ranger here and what I like about the previous Ranger. So this is a very clean and honest design. So looking at the Ranger here, what I like about this, you can see that the relation between the top lower part right here and the top part is now a little different than we have on the new Ranger up here. This is actually smaller, it's thinner right here, and this is larger. So we have the base mass of the front fascia being heavier in the bottom and a little thinner at the top. So I want to apply that specifically onto the new Ranger, and that means probably cutting into the headlight right here and make them a little squintier so that this part down here is beefier than this segment up here, just like we have on the previous Ranger. Not gonna talk more about this right now, and instead we're gonna jump in and get started with the redesign, so this video isn't turning out to be 30 minutes long. So with that said, let's continue here in Photoshop and apply these changes that we just talked about. One thing that I'm excited about for the new Ranger is the reintroduction. I'm not sure it's a reintroduction or just an introduction now of the Ford Ranger Raptor in the US. It really doesn't make sense to me why Ford decided to not sell it in the States, because it feels like one of these US trucks that are that would be perfect for the US market. It's a mid-sized truck, beefy with beefed up suspension. It's wider and it's just a cooler looking Ranger. A lot of people would want that here, I guess, and that's probably why they bring it back now for this new model. And I can't wait to see what it looks like, specifically with the, I hope they create those specific Raptor fenders that have these big chamfers around the headlights, which I love on the specifically the Ford F-150 Raptor. I can't wait to see how that will be applied onto the new Ranger. Overall, when I first saw the Ranger, it looks pretty cool, but I also talked about the thing that I talked about on my second channel is it's kind of a weird styling decision to have this be more stylized than the Ford Maverick, for example, because as you know, we've talked about this before, the smaller the car in the lineup, the more stylized, the more fun the designers can have with the design. That's usually how it is. So if you have a 3 Series, it also often have more lines and creases, more curvatures, and more roundedness than a 7 Series. A 7 Series is more of a stately car, and it's more of an architectural approach to design. So I was really surprised when I saw that the Ford Ranger was more stylized than the Ford Maverick. It's a cool approach. I mean, it's not a rule that is set in stone that you need to do that, but that's just usually how the progression goes from small Maverick up to, let's keep it up in F-150 or F-250. Very strict designs, very boxy, very architectural. Maverick is supposed to be the fun where designers can get creative with stuff and lines and proportions and so on. And this is even more stylized than the smallest truck in the lineup, which is the Maverick. So I kind of want to dial back the style or the styliness in the front end, in the front fascia, specifically with this rubber band that we talked about. I don't like that stretches out as far up as it does. It looks like it's totally out of place, that little graphic feature. And I want to have the body color connect from both sides, one side to the other, in the middle of the front fascia, to not only extend the width visually of the truck, but also to separate the two elements of graphics that we talked about in the beginning of this video. You have the LED, the headlights, you have the grille, and then you have the lower part, which is the bumper and the air intakes. Those I want to have them be separated by a strip of body color in this case. And in addition to that, of course, work a little bit on the headlights here. I want to have a very strong identity even at night, so you have no doubts that this is a Ranger when you see it at night. And that's what I'm gonna have it be a symmetrical, almost upside. The top bar of the headlights is going to be almost mirrored in the lower part with that little uptick of the LED down there. I think that's going to create a strong identity for Ford, and I haven't seen that style on a truck yet, and it's still in line with what Ford is doing with those C-shaped outlines of the LED daytime running lights. Now, of course, I couldn't help myself. I had to just put some bigger wheels and tires on here just to see what it will look like. Maybe not like the Raptor style, because that would require a lot more surgery to this redesign. That would require us to widen the fenders and create some other different bumper in the front end. We're not gonna go that crazy in this redesign. But this could be maybe the new Tremor package or something like that. Just have some fun with it. And of course, I think it looks a lot better with maybe, what is this, 33-inch tires. The new Ranger could probably come with 33s from factory and it would look great. If you want to go crazy, you could maybe fit 35s on there if you want to create a real off-road beast. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.